Welcome back to Avaya, Roberta.
Thank you so much, Andy. It's really a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we could have another conversation here at Avaya, and let's just dive into it. So I know this is a big area of expertise for you. So what would you say is emotional and psychological codependency outside of the substance abuse discussion where the term kind of originated?
Well, it's a couple of things, and that's a great question because we think we know. And so let's be very specific. It's when you become overly reliant on another human, when you are looking to them for your sense of self, your sense of your place in the world, for your importance, and you focus on other people's problems and feelings and needs and wants and minimize your own. So they're always getting bigger, you're always getting smaller, you're always leaning in, and they are always your source of supply, which puts you into imbalance. And when you make other people more important than yourself in order to feel needed and loved and worthwhile, then you can be in a codependent state. The good news is you can get out of it.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, and I can totally resonate with all of what you just said as it relates to that. So how does a person in your experience become codependent?
Well, it's a very early on process in most situations. They've had modeling that shows them this is the way it is. Let's always remember, we forget this. People say, oh, babies don't notice anything. Babies learn everything by watching and listening. So they are watching the model. How do you speak? How do you stand? How do you respond to things? What's the look on your face? And then as they grow up, they continue with their brain development to take in, okay, how do you respond to something? What do you say? Does that make people happy? So when you're learning all of those things, particularly before the age of 6, 7, when you get parietal and prefrontal lobe development, you are taking in, how do I fit in the world? And if I am in a home where I am told that I am the king of the castle and you have to do everything right, I am the queen of everything, and you have to keep me happy, you can become codependent because you are passive, you will lean in, you will be looking to please, and you will continue in that realm. Everybody else's needs and wants are more important than yours. You've been taught that. And so the pattern continues.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for talking a little about the origins of how we develop codependent tendencies. So let's talk about codependency as it relates to toxic relationships. How does codependency make someone more vulnerable to toxic relationships?
Well, if you're supposed to please people and that's what gets you up in the morning, you have become codependent, then a person who is toxic to you, a person I call a hijackal, Andy, I trademarked that term so people would stop going to Google and look for clinical mental health diagnosis and stop talking about that. Talk about the patterns, traits, behaviors, and cycles of people who are toxic to us. So hijackals are on the lookout for people who are pre-groomed to please them. Then they have to do less work. So if you're pre-groomed by your early experience in life, and then you are just sitting there emitting, okay, pick me, please pick me. And then they come on with their love bombing and they tell you you're the best thing that ever happened to them. They can hardly wait to marry you, move in with you, or have a baby with you. And they know they love you, even though they've just met you. You've got a problem. But a codependent person is like, oh, good, somebody likes me, somebody loves me, somebody wants me. And I'm doing it in the extreme, Andy, but that's what's the underlying piece. You may not even resonate with the, oh, somebody likes me piece, but underneath there's a part of you that's brightening, saying, oh, I can just make myself into a pretzel for this person, which they will demand, and they will demand it over time. And you will continue to evolve and actually devolve in the situation.
Mhm. In your experience of hijackals, do you think most people who are hijackals are like doing that grooming consciously or unconsciously?
It's all they know to do. That's how they survived in the world. That's, again, you go back to their first 7 years of life. What they are all about is avoiding shame. So they are going to be the ones on top of the pile. If we're looking at overt hijackals, the ones that we think of, the ones that are always the smartest person in the room, the ones who are demanding attention, the ones who are very obvious. And in the case of covert hijackals, those are the ones who are always playing the victim. Nobody cares about me, none of that. So they were groomed in their early life to behave that way. And so that's the dynamic. They don't actually sit around and say, let me go and find somebody who's codependent. They simply know, oh, okay, I see the dynamic. I feel the energetic difference. I observe them in space for a little while and then, got it. This is one for me to swoop in on. And there you have it. That bond that creates between the person who's looking to be chosen and the one who appears to be choosing. And therefore, we have a lack of the three must-haves of a healthy adult relationship. We're going to have a lack of equality, a lack of reciprocity, and a lack of mutuality. And it starts right in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. I want to dive into like a little further into like what makes up a healthy relationship in a little bit. But before we start there, well, let's talk about the patterns. We talked about 7 patterns today we're going to be looking at. So what would you say is the number one pattern out of those 7 to stop?
The first one is people pleasing. And really understand, you are not in this world to live up to the expectations of another adult when you're an adult. You are here to be fully realized, to be you, to know who you are and to know what you value, to know what you believe and to express it every day. And if somebody is coming in and squashing that and wanting you to be like them or wanting you to be like they want you to be, that's the number one problem. Stop trying to please another person and get into balance between pleasing yourself and pleasing others. Then we have healthy balance. So that is the number one big red flag. If you are a people pleaser, you are going to just be a sitting duck for a hijackal to swoop down and take up.
Mm-hmm. So like in the moment, I personally struggle with people pleasing also, as I'm sure most people watching do. Like let's say someone is in the moment and they know like what they're doing is people pleasing or what they're about to do is please and they're aware of it. My experience sometimes I like the emotion of it. It's like, it's difficult. It's difficult to change that pattern in the moment. So obviously well worth it, but difficult. So any thoughts for that, for people who struggle with that shift?
First and foremost,
AVAIYA has changed my life.
AVAIYA has made me the woman I am today.
AVAIYA is my home.
AVAIYA is personal freedom.
AVAIYA is the reason my life continuously improves.
Let everyone in your life know about AVAIYA.
Everyone needs to know about this amazing company.
Thank you, AVAIYA, for appearing in my inbox.
What Ike Allen and Andy Anderson have created at AVAIYA is what the world needs.